Hello to all of you from around the world. I want to thank you for joining us for another edition of Soulivity Today. We're broadcasting live from our studio right here in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and on KMET 1490 AM radio in Southern California. My name is Brian Westley Johnson, and whether you're at home, driving, or even at work, we are always glad you're here with us. Are you ready for another amazing show? Well, I know I am. And I know my co-host is ready. I'm joined today by the host of the all-new Tammy's Table, Tami Gaines. Welcome, Tami. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I was having a little technical difficulty here with my table.
Well, it happens. It happens. But it's all good. It's all good. You know why it's all good?
Because it's Friday.
Exactly. Today is our Hot Topics Friday show, where we are bringing you some of the latest important stories from around the nation. You know, it's important for us here at Soulivity that we bring you fuller details and information around your community, regionally, statewide, nationally, internationally, so you can make more informed decisions about your world. Tami, we were kind of talking about this offline. Reactions came in from around the nation in regards to the latest news from the U.S. Supreme Court, where it seems as though it will rule against the Colorado Supreme Court's decision to exclude former President Donald Trump from the presidential ballot in November. Now, this is on the grounds that he incited an insurrection, right? Let's start this conversation with one reaction from the Michigan Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, who was reported by CBS News yesterday.
Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, who joins us now also outside the Supreme Court. Madam Secretary, your impressions of what you heard this morning at the High Court.
I was really grateful that the Supreme Court first heard this case and then was very clear throughout the discussion and oral arguments how important it is to provide finality to this matter and to avoid the chaos of having different states making different determinations of ballot access in this case. So my hope is that we'll see a lot of consensus among the justices in their decision, and that decision comes swiftly and soon so that we in the states can get back to the business of running fair and secure elections this year.
Madam Secretary, your state came up in a rhetorical part of the oral arguments. I believe Justice Kagan said, well, what if Colorado does this? What would happen in Michigan? And what would happen in another state? Since your state was invoked in that sense, is there confusion among you and your contemporaries, meaning other secretaries of state, about what to do at this point?
No, since this case emerged and that issue emerged last fall, I was very clear that states do not have the authority to make this call, and that if we did assume that authority of ballot access on the 14th Amendment question here, we would be injecting ourselves into a discussion that actually is better decided by the U.S. Supreme Court, and as the court seemed to hint today, perhaps even by Congress. And so in my view, we have a very clear role in the states, and that is running free and fair elections and providing citizens clarity and certainty that their vote's going to count. These sorts of ambiguous questions about ballot access, when they rise to this level, are best resolved by the U.S. Supreme Court, and I was gratified to see the court really affirm that today in a lot of their discussions, and I'm hopeful that the decision will provide that clear guidance about who has the authority to determine the ballot access question in this case, and in my view, that authority should be squarely with the federal government as opposed to the states.
Madam Secretary, Jocelyn Benson, Democratic Secretary of State of the great state of Michigan, thank you so much for your time.
Woo! Now, Tami.
Listen, Trump is like, remember Pigpen from Charlie Brown? Like, wherever Trump goes, he's like Pigpen with all that like chaos and dirt around him. Okay.
I think the current number is 91 indictments.
91 indictments.
91. Now, the curious thing about this isn't the only case regarding the former president that's coming to the High Court in recent days. Possibly as soon as next week, the court could be hearing his appeal of the appellate court decisions on presidential immunity. The lower court ruled against him and said, nah, bruh, you don't have blanket immunity on stuff. So this is
Look,
it. This is yeah.
I don't have
Go
a law
ahead.
degree, but I'm pretty sure like a 6-year-old would know that you do not have blanket immunity, no matter who you are. President, a janitor, like that doesn't exist.
Well, it's. I think the frustrating thing for me in the court case yesterday is I get that this hasn't been tried before, right? We've had literally no American president in the history of our country incite an insurrection, right? And the fact that this law is in the books around people holding public office or running. I mean, there was some disagreement in terms of the wording, and that the history and the intent and all this got mixed up in this case, where the intent was, as far as I hear, this was for like states, right? That you didn't want someone who was an insurrectionist to kind of like hold public office in states where that would be out of the view of the federal government, right? But at the same time, doesn't it also make sense that a person that if you're a president of the United States and you're doing things that go against the Constitution, wouldn't that also count? I mean, in terms of like this, like you're on your way out, you're going to be out of the presidency in a minute. And wouldn't that count? I mean, it's like, it's just bizarre. It's just bizarre.
There's so much at play. Number one, let's be clear that Donald Trump doesn't own a constitution. He's never read the Constitution. So that assumption, like we need to like make sure we're starting from that assumption.
Don't make me laugh too much this morning.
It's true. I literally have a copy of the Constitution in the other room.
Yeah.
And yes, I agree. Historically, there was a real reason for putting this in the Constitution. They didn't want. There's certain people that shouldn't be running, not just for state office, but for federal office. Right. I think what is tough about this one is listen, let's be crystal clear. I don't want Trump to be president. I don't want him on the ballot. I don't want him near the White House again. However, I believe that the justices are going to rule they're going to rule in his favor because it starts a dangerous precedent. So you can like that means anybody could start kicking people, Republican or Democrat, by the way. That means there's a precedent to kick people off the ballot, which is very dangerous.
Yeah. You bring up a really, really good point. And I want people to understand that, right? Where if the Supreme Court rules for this, you will have a backlash, right? Because there is no process, right? There is no federal law that dictates how this law appears in terms of our court system and that kind of thing. The states can do whatever they want right now. And so until there is the law is written where it spells out what states have to do to be able to take someone off the ballot because of this, it's probably a good idea that this is not the time to do it, right? We still need to have the national conversation about the insurrection, Trump's involvement, and all this kind of thing, and that he needs to be accountable for it. But this is not the time to do it. I also think, to your point too, the court's going to split the baby on this one, right? Where on this side of the equation, they're going to rule against Colorado Supreme Court. But on the other side of the equation with the presidential immunity, I think they're going to say, nah, you ain't got that, bro. And that you're going to have to go to trial.
They're going to laugh him right off the front stairs. Um, the other thing that bothered me about yesterday was
Mhm.
them splitting hairs about the word insurrection. Like, what's the
Yeah.
question? We all saw the same thing on January 6th. How do you
Yeah,
call that anything else?
it was here. It was here in DC. I mean, I called my wife, my kid. I said, no, come home. I mean, we were all afraid of what was
Oh, my
happening.
brother's a police officer. He was in Baltimore. He had to go to the Capitol and help, like, manage
Wow.
that crowd. How do you split
Wow.
hairs about what to call that?
Uh,
They were like, "Oh, it was a peaceful protest." What?
mm, yeah. Right. 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 And so it's like, I don't get it, Tam. That's the part that infuriated me more than anything. That at that level of our judicial system, that there was no real conversation about our democracy, right? The 90% of the justices that did not even want to talk about it. They only wanted to talk about the process parts and all that, and this state. There was no appetite for them to talk about any of that. So that part really pissed me off.
Yeah,
But anyway, we're going to let this one
puzzles.
stand. We'd love to hear what you guys have to think about this. Just post into our live chats, even after this live broadcast is over. We'd love to get your thoughts. Listen, we've got more of Soulivity coming up. Just wanted to let you guys know that here in the United States, February celebrates the history of African Americans and their legacy, which is part of the fabric of our nation. Each day we air Soulivity Today. We will be airing moments of Black history to commemorate these great American heroes. Enjoy, and we'll be right back with more of Soulivity Today in just a few moments.
I was in junior high in Knoxville, Tennessee. And every morning, all the kids had to stand up first thing, face the flag, put your hand over your heart, and state the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. My teacher at that time, Mrs. Arter, always led us in the Pledge of Allegiance until we got to that part where it said, "One nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all." Mrs. Otter would always say, "One nation under God, with liberty and justice for those who got the guts to grab it." I developed the notion that if I could just get in a law school, get a good legal education, get the right to practice law, that I could stop the world and get the rules right. Howard University was the first law school in this country that had a civil rights program, and I was interested in the area of civil rights. Howard at the time was developing Brown versus Board of Education. A student there had the opportunity to sit and listen to the greatest civil rights lawyers in the country spin these arguments that you hopefully one day would be spinning yourself. My name is Solomon Say Jr., and I have been a practicing attorney since 1957.
Do you see me kneeling on this dual roller called Parasetter? It's actually comfortable because of this channel and the softness of the special foam. It feels like my kneecaps are being massaged. When I lie down, my spine is housed in this channel, while the convex rollers massage my muscles. They let go and lengthen. There's a traction effect from my head on the headrest and my mid-back from the rib wrap, which hugs me. When I start the breathing sequence, I feel calm because my cortisol levels are dropping. Lower cortisol means bye-bye constant hunger. Parasetter is 40 inches long and much more comfortable than old-style rollers, but it weighs only 10 ounces. Parasetter, just like Pilates was, is no longer an insider secret. Do yourself a favor. Reset your parasympathetic nervous system. Defeat stress. Lying, sitting, kneeling, or standing. This unique patented roller helps everyone.
Six years ago, when I started Soulivity, my vision was to support everyone in improving their life through the discovery of their passion and purpose, so they could become the best version of themselves, to battle fear and ignorance, and create a better world today. Get inspired to live your passion and purpose. Visit Soulivity.com now.
Hey, we're back with more here on Soulivity today for our Hot Topics Friday, where we are bringing you some of the latest important stories from around the nation. Tami Gaines is back with me.
Hello.
Tami, yeah, this story, this is pretty crazy because the news media has not really covered this. This is an update from a story that we covered, I think you were on here a few weeks ago, that may have gone unnoticed because of the sheer amount of legal news that's coming out in recent days, right? An Ohio woman who miscarried at home won't be criminally charged. This is the update. This is from a state grand jury. Brittany Watts, 34, had been charged with a felony of abuse of a corpse. I'm using very specific words right now. After she miscarried in her bathroom and was later admitted to a hospital for a life-threatening hemorrhage. Before we have this discussion, here's more about this from Channel 19 News out of Cleveland, Ohio.
No charges in a controversial case involving an Ohio woman. She was facing criminal charges after suffering a miscarriage at her home. Tonight, Kelly Kennedy was in Trumbull County as healthcare advocates and the community rallied to support her and her 34-year-old woman.
The Warren woman was arrested back in October for the way that she handled an at-home miscarriage. Now, she was facing charges for abuse of a corpse, a felony that carries up to a year in prison. But today, a grand jury decided not to indict Brittany Watts. A rally originally planned to demand justice for 34-year-old Brittany Watts turned into a celebration Thursday.
We are not done fighting.
Her case made national headlines, as many worried what it could mean for pregnant women, as states continue to pass more restrictive reproductive health laws.
As she was hemorrhaging and writhing with pain, she had no way of knowing that the miscarriage was only the beginning of her suffering. She could not have possibly imagined that the most private situation of her life will leave her demonized and fighting for her freedom.
The Warren woman learned she was going to lose her baby days before the miscarriage happened. Watts came here to Mercy Health St. Joseph's Hospital in Warren twice before she miscarried. Her attorney said delays and other issues led to her leaving both times without receiving treatment. Court records say doctors at the Catholic hospital told her that the fetus she was carrying wasn't viable, and she needed to be induced or could be at risk for death. The young woman miscarried in the toilet of her home. When she went to the hospital after, a nurse called 911. Prosecutors said the 22-week-old fetus was found stuck in the pipes. An autopsy concluded the fetus died in utero. Todd Johnson is the Reverend of Second Baptist Church and the president of Action of Mahoning Valley. He's also known Watts for years.
I think that this situation provides a teaching moment for our community, as well as law enforcement, the medical community, and those in the court system. And that hopefully, whether the laws need to be adjusted or updated or interpreted and carried out differently, that we would have a different way of handling how females deal with pregnancy loss, and that this should not be criminalized.
With the weight of the world finally off her shoulders, Watts thanked those who stood by her.
I want to thank my community.
Warren, Ohio. I was born here, I was raised here, I graduated high school here, and I'm going to continue to stay here because I have to continue to fight.
Reporting in Warren, Kelly Kennedy, 19 News.
Tami, I'll let you go.
Okay,
Yeah.
I have a couple of things.
Yeah.
That is such a personal experience. The fact that all these people are involved, I've had that experience in the privacy of my own home with my doctor. No offense, Brian, but
Yeah.
you can tell that clearly men are writing these laws.
Oh,
Like, men have no idea what that
ignorant.
experience is
Ignorant
like.
men, by the way.
Ignorant. And okay,
Not,
so we know
yeah.
how it's just restrictive, but let's talk about something that is probably like maybe we missed. Why did the nurse call 911? Like, she called the cops on that woman. What kind of healthcare provider is that?
Right. Right.
You know, I'm glad it didn't go anywhere, but it puts a spotlight on so much of what's wrong with our healthcare system and the racial disparity.
Yeah.
Like, women of color are more likely to have a miscarriage than white women.
Right.
Right? So
Full
it's
stop.
the racial disparity.
Full stop.
It is. Full stop. This would have never happened to a white chick. They would have never worked.
I'm also
it's
thinking.
Just a spotlight on the,
I'm also thinking about the trauma, the multiple levels of trauma that this woman had to go through from the moment that she found first that she was pregnant and she had this baby, and then the baby was not going to be, the fetus was not viable. So that's one. That's the first trauma. Then the second trauma is that she miscarried, you know, and then that's the secondary trauma to her body and to her psyche. And then in the midst of all of that.
Sorry, Brian, you skipped two traumas. Yeah. She went to the hospital twice.
Oh, well,
while she was still pregnant.
Right.
Now, that's traumatic.
Because this all happened. This all happened within a few weeks. Right. So in the midst of all of this, here comes the knock on the door from the police to arrest you for a felony where you are fingerprinted, you're arrested, fingerprinted, locked up, you have to get an attorney, you get bailed, go through an arraignment, get bailed out, then come to another hearing where a judge doesn't dispute anything that the pathologist has said to him. Listen, the baby was dead. It was all this, and still let it go forward to a grand jury. After that, it just anyway. Come on, people.
What is going on?
What is going on? This is not what we're supposed to be. This is not how we're supposed to be living our lives.
Has everybody lost their common sense? Again, you don't need to be a judge or a lawyer. Like, where is your common sense and where is your sense of humanity?
Right. I mean,
unreal.
And to be clear, in the pre-trial hearing to see whether or not this was going to move forward, factual, non-disputed information came out that this is happening every day. It happens every day. And it's not like it's not something that we can't be compassionate about and caring about and sympathetic about. Right. And
Well,
so,
when we lost our reproductive freedom, this is going to be happening all over the country. We're back to 1950s back alley abortions. And what, you can't have a miscarriage at home? You have to go, like, you're going to turn yourself in to the cops? I had a miscarriage. Arrest me. Listen, when they overturned Roe v. Wade, it has had such a ripple effect.
right.
In
Right.
so many parts,
Right.
of women's health.
Right.
I don't know if we could ever get that back, but I'm sure not going to stop fighting.
And as we go to break real quick, I just want to point out something factually to everybody. And again, we'd love to hear what you have to say on this, even after this live stream. Just post. In those states where reproductive rights were on the ballot, maybe in a referendum or whatever, the overwhelming majority of people, even in red states like Kansas, those referendums passed by a margin of 2-1, 3-1, even 4-1. So this isn't something that people don't want, right? It's just it's just become a political football and talking points where women are suffering because of it, and we need to stop it. We need to stop it. Anyway,
absolutely.
With that being said, exactly. Listen, we're going to take another quick break, but we've got more hot topics coming up, especially another story that it's a two-parter that I think you're going to enjoy about a teacher that's in South Carolina. So we'll be right back with more in just a couple minutes. Hi there, this is Brian with Soulivity.com. I want to share some exciting news about our new Aspire Academy by Soulivity. Now, you probably want to know what the Aspire Academy by Soulivity is. Well, it exclusively connects you with people around the globe and who share the intense desire to improve themselves and create a better life for themselves today. There's classes, there's workshops, there's live events, and even more exclusively just for you. You see, I wanted you to have a safe space where you could grow, you can learn, and it would empower you in all aspects of your life, including your mind, your body, and your soul. So how do you get started? Well, it is so easy. First of all, the best part, joining Aspire Academy is absolutely free. Just click on the Join Now button, sign up, and begin your journey. As a special part of this invitation to you, there are some free courses that are available for you to try from our amazing roster of coaches and collaborators. It's our way of saying thank you for all of your support and being with us along our journey of expansion. I hope you enjoy the Aspire Academy by Soulivity today. Start the process. Learn more about your passion, your purpose, and how to live a higher quality life. Well, hello there, Washington, D.C. We got some sunshine going on. I see some people riding and walking through Pennsylvania Avenue and everything. And we're back here with more on Soulivity today, where we are talking about some hot topics, where we're bringing you some of the latest important stories from around the nation. Tami Gaines is back with me. Tami, this next story that I want to talk about, it comes in two parts. Now, the first part happened a few months ago, where a South Carolina teacher was reprimanded for using the widely known and popular Ta-Nehisi Coates' Between the World and Me book. This was for a lesson on racism and after a complaint from 2 of her students. Now, let's learn more about this first part first before we move on.
A South Carolina school district shut down classroom discussion of this book after complaints from students that it violated a state law prohibiting instruction on controversial topics related to race. Students in an advanced placement language arts class at Chapin High School last spring were scheduled to read Between the World and Me, a 2015 memoir by writer Ta-Nehisi Coates recapping American racial history and its impact on his life growing up Black in inner-city Baltimore. This book is studied as part of the argument essay unit for the AP Lang exam, teacher Mary Wood wrote regarding the book's inclusion in her lesson plan. Wood says she taught the same book the previous year without any controversy. Some students expressed discomfort after watching 2 short videos played in the class as preparation for the book, The Unequal Opportunity Race and Systemic Racism Explained. One unnamed student wrote to a school board member after the class that they felt the topic was too heavy to discuss. For the 2022-23 school year, South Carolina lawmakers added a condition to the state budget that prohibited state money from being spent to teach various ideas related to race, including an individual should feel discomfort, guilt, anguish, or any other form of psychological distress on account of his race or sex. The motion was passed to combat supposed critical race theory in South Carolina schools. Wood, however, defended the lesson in a letter she later wrote to District Superintendent Akil Ross and the school board. She points out that the course description states that fair representation of issues and peoples may include controversial material. She also said in this culture, everything may be considered controversial, and to prevent conversations about experiences which exist outside of heterosexual Caucasian norms is both biased and discriminatory, and completely anti-ethical to the development of critical thinking and civil discourse, which is the entire point of an AP Lang course.
Which is the entire point, right? Now, as I said before, there's
point.
Exactly. So there's 2 parts to this story. So we know about the part where she got reprimanded and all this kind of thing. But there's another part of it where she tried again. She didn't stop. And so with the support of her principal at her school, who was Black, by the way, and after revising the lesson plans, she started to teach the course again. But she changed it a little bit where she actually began the whole program with an audio recording of Ta-Nehisi Coates speaking about his experience. And a miraculous thing happened. Everybody took part. Nobody.
I was about to say that everybody
took part. Nobody went back. And nobody reported her. And when she saw this happening, of course, tears were rolling down her eyes and that kind of thing. But the whole thing when she was doing it before was part of a political season. And the 2 students, they started feeling away and they told their parents about it. But this time she changed it so that she thought that she could reach them better by hearing from the author himself and then work their way into the deeper parts of the book. And all the students, the students, they came out later and were like, we were wrong for doing this. Right?
Yeah.
We had no idea of what we could learn. And so I just wanted to put that out there as a pretty good hot topic. And again, this has not hit any kind of media or anything.
Well,
there's a way to do this.
Not this particular story, but they're banning books in Florida. They are.
Yeah.
This isn't the only story of teachers trying to teach. And, it's interesting. My daughter is in AP Lang, and she took Holocaust and genocide. as her
Wow.
focus.
Woo. Woo. All right.
So I think
Go on, girl.
there's a couple of things. Oh, I got an email yesterday. Her final project was on Afro Germans during the Holocaust.
Wow.
Black people that were
Wow.
there. But I went with
Wow.
her. Like they had an event at a university here,
Mhm.
and she asked me if I wanted to go, and I was like, "Of course I have to go. I have to drive you there." So we went. It was about 500 people of all races, colors, and age here to. They were there to listen to this gentleman talk about his experience of the Holocaust. He was
Wow.
his grandparents were survivors.
Wow.
So how come when they talk about, I put that out there to put a question to you.
Mhm.
Why when they talk about banning books and when they talk about reprimanding teachers, it's always over African American history. It's never over anybody else's history. Like, I feel like that will never change, and this little story is one of thousands of little stories around this country.
Well, you
And
know
it's
the
beyond
yeah.
Ron I know
You know
it's
the
beyond
answer.
Ron DeSantis trying to rewrite history, but for goodness sake, like they didn't.
The
I haven't seen any Japanese books banned or anybody else's books banned or.
well, there's only one other minority group that's affected by this, and that's our Latin brothers and sisters, whose
Yeah,
history is intermixed with the fabric of America, right? In terms of how things came about and oppression and discrimination and that kind of thing, right? Everything else was outside of the United States, right? For the most part. I mean,
hmm
the internment of Japanese citizens and that kind of thing. It took a long time for that to actually come out and be more of a mainstream kind of topic. And there's still things that we don't know, right? But
right.
for the most part, the consistency is if it was the majority, sorry, white folks, but you were in the majority. If it's the white folks, oppressing other people in our country, that history is suppressed. And that's just the truth and the gosh darn truth.
Right.
How do I know this? I've served on school boards, as you know, in Texas, where I've literally been at the education agency and at the state school boards where they were approving books that were literally trying to say things like the period of slavery, the 300 years of slavery, 400 years of slavery that we had was called the agricultural revolution. They were trying to eliminate
What?
figures like Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Banneker and other folks from books and uplift other people who were either who were non-abolitionists or took very more conservative views to slavery and other things. So yeah, this is not something that is just, overblown and black people and brown people are just overreacting. It's like, no. It's been going on for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's why I've heard people say that our kids today are so entitled and they're, they spend all this time on social media. They do this, they do that. We're not raising critical thinkers because we're so busy trying to rewrite history.
Right.
And be controversial at everything.
And protect and under the guise of trying to protect our kids from feeling bad. It's like, listen, life ain't easy. And if there's anything that we talk about on Soulivity a lot is this process of that you become self-aware, and as you become self-aware, there are things that are not easy for you to deal with. There's trauma there, there's drama there, there's stress, there's anxiety, there's history, and we got to deal with all that. Well, we have to teach our kids early in their life how to process and deal with all that stuff as they live, not wait till they're adults when it's all packed in. It's like, no.
Yeah.
We don't want that. Listen,
Yeah.
got to take a break. We'll continue to watch this story and that kind of thing, because I would love to hear about what's happening with that teacher later on, in the upcoming school year. Listen, we're going to take this quick break, but we'll be back in 2 minutes.
You can find all of the Satana products at our Go shop at go.soulivity.com.
Have you ever asked the question, if I was to be anything, what would I be? Regardless of money, regardless of status, beyond popularity and fame. Living your passion, feeling your life has purpose. Soulivity is a space to nurture that which lives in all of us. A place where work can become play, and doing what we love creates the dreams of a lifetime.
Well, hello, New York City. Little cloudy, but it's all right. It's all right. And you're all right because you are here with us on Soulivity today, where we are talking about a lot of our hot topics from around the world. Tami Gaines is back with me.
What's up,
this
B?
last story, yeah, go for it.
No, go ahead. I was just saying hi.
Yeah, this last story is bizarre because we were talking about this offline. I have not heard a peep about this. And just to let people know, well, I'll tell you what, why don't we let former Secretary of Labor Robert Reich tell you about this? You're going to be blown away.
Corporations are bringing back child labor in America. Since 2015, child labor violations have risen nearly 300%. And those are just the violations government investigators have managed to uncover and document. The Department of Labor says it's currently investigating over 600 cases of illegal child labor in America. Major American companies like General Mills, Walmart, and Ford have all been implicated. Why on earth is this happening? The answer is frighteningly simple: greed. Employers have been having difficulty finding the workers they need at the wages they're willing to pay, and rather than reduce their profits by paying adult workers more, employers are exploiting children. The sad fact of the matter is that many of the children who are being exploited are considered to be them rather than us because they're disproportionately poor and immigrant. So the moral shame of subjecting our children to inhumane working conditions when they ought to be in school is quietly avoided. And since some of these children or their parents are undocumented, they dare not speak out or risk detention and deportation. They need the money. This makes them easily exploitable. It's a perfect storm that's resulting in vulnerable children taking on some of the most brutal jobs in America. Folks, we've seen this before. Reformers fought to establish the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938 for a reason: to curb the grotesque child labor seen during America's first Gilded Age. The U.S. banned most child labor, but now pro-business trade groups are trying to reverse nearly a century of progress. and they're using the so-called labor shortage as their excuse. Arkansas will no longer require 14 and 15-year-olds to get a work permit before taking a job, a process that verified their age and required permission from a parent or guardian. A bill in Ohio would let children work later on school nights. Minnesota Republicans are pushing to let 16-year-olds work in construction. And in Iowa, 14-year-olds may soon be allowed to take certain jobs in meatpacking plants and operate dangerous machinery. It's all a coordinated campaign to erode national standards, making it even easier for companies to profit off children. Across America, we're witnessing a resurgence of cruel capitalism, in which business lobbyists and lawmakers justify their actions by arguing that they're not exploiting the weak and vulnerable, but rather providing jobs for those who need them and would otherwise go hungry or homeless. Conveniently, these same business lobbyists and lawmakers are often among the first to claim we can't afford stronger safety nets that would provide these children with safe housing and adequate nutrition.
Girl.
Wow. Wow. There's a lot to unpack there. Some of those images, Brian, of the kids, like back in the day, that looked like it looked like white kids picking cotton in the fields. So, all right, let me ask you, I have like some mixed feelings about this.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, the first thing I thought of when I was watching the video was like, a lot of these families actually need the money.
True.
So I'm not saying don't say they need the money. Like, so I'm not saying don't send your kids to school, but there's a lot of kids that have after school jobs, not necessarily in construction or in like a meat packing facility. So that's one piece. Like, families need the money. That piece about being undocumented is super interesting. Because that is like a vicious cycle that I don't see how we get out of.
Right.
And then as a mom, I can tell you that 3 of my 4 kids had jobs when they were old enough to get their working papers, which is 14. The difference is, so Sarah Huckabee Sanders signed a bill into law. You didn't need to get working papers. That's the only check. You need a parent's signature to say you're allowed to have a job and where you're working.
Right. And
it's a lot. It's a lot.
And I think and just to let people understand, listen, child labor hasn't stopped in our history, right? There were standards that were put in place because you had children under, 9, 10, 12-year-olds working in coal mines. I mean, and so there were standards that were put forth to make sure that children weren't put in danger, they weren't being overworked, because every child in America has to be educated and those kind of things. And so, there had to be this balance that's there so that families who needed their children to work and that kind of thing, they would be working in a safe environment, right? And so, that's where it's at. And so I just wanted to bring this up today because I thought that it was important that we talk about this, even though we're running out of time, I'll let you have the last word, Tim.
Yeah, the reason I said I'm a little conflicted is because I do believe that kids should work. It teaches discipline. It teaches you how to, not take orders, but you're managed by somebody. Hopefully you're mentored by somebody. So by the time you're an adult, you don't have your first job when you're 22.
Right.
So,
right.
But there do need to be bumpers. I also think some of those bumpers need to be put on by the parents.
You ain't never lied about that.
What parent would let your kid go work in a meatpacking facility?
It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Listen, we're running out of time, but I wanted to make sure that we got a couple of plugs in here, specifically for what's coming up on Monday, which is another Tami's Table. Tami, who are you gonna have on this week? Tell me about this person really, really quick.
Super excited. We're gonna have Melissa White on. I met Melissa in India, believe it or not, although she's from down your way. She's an extraordinary life coach. Not people that like lost their job and they became a life coach. Like it is literally her life's mission to make sure people stay on track and help them get where they want to be. And on Monday, we're going to be talking about overcoming disappointment.
Wow. Yeah.
Like how do you manage disappointment? So that was her choice of the topic. So I knew she's going to bring it. She's a phenomenal speaker.
I can't wait. Just want to remind everybody that Tami's Table is airing on Monday at 12 p.m. right here on our Soulivity channels. I can't wait to watch this because I'm going to be right there with you. Because overcoming disappointment is like it's a factor of life. I mean, we were talking about kids and dealing with hurt and trauma and all that kind of stuff. It's just part of life and living. So I'll have my I will definitely have my notebook out and taking notes from both of y'all. Strong, powerful women. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you being here. You know, we're gonna do this again in a couple of weeks. Next week is our hot astrology, so we'll be talking about hot astrology with Sonia Francis. But listen, we're running out of time. Listen, to all of you, thank you for joining us for this edition of Soulivity Today. We hope that you come back and join us every Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern on all our Soulivity channels, or you can listen or watch us on KMET 1490 AM radio in Southern California for all of you guys out on the West Coast. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can know every time that we go live. Well, until next time, for all of us here at Soulivity, on behalf of myself, Tami, and all of our other co-hosts and great guests, we will see you next time. And keep on following your passion and your purpose, and it's going to lead you to your best life, your high quality life today. Bye for now.
This work is subject to copyright owned by Affinity Global LLC. Any reproduction or republication of all or part of this is expressly prohibited unless Affinity Global LLC has explicitly granted